This is Richard Miles of Board Game Authority, and today we're going to talk about Abyss. So Abyss has become a popular game at my local board game meetup group. It's requested almost every time, and sometimes it's being played at multiple tables, like at the same time. So it's a popular game. Here's a few things that make it fun. Number one, you can't really talk about Abyss without talking about the art. I know art doesn't make a game, it's not the mechanics, right? But we are visual creatures, and things that are pleasing to our eye, such as good art in a game, just enhances and makes the experience that much better. And that's the case with Abyss. The artwork just enhances the game itself, and because the artwork is so well done, it's a nice game to look at, you just automatically feel better about playing it, right? So number one, the artwork. It is phenomenal. But let's get into the meat of the game itself and how it works. Because there's a lot that I like about it. There are some things that are kind of unique to Abyss and stand out as kind of, oh, that's a neat mechanic type thing. The first thing I like that a lot of people seem to comment on is the kind of player-driven economy. And what I mean by this is on any player's turn, let's say it's my turn, one of my available actions is to kind of flip cards to sell them to other players. You yourself may buy that card at no cost to you because it's your turn. But if another player chooses to buy one of the cards that you're flipping on your turn, they pay you. They pay you. It's your turn. They pay you. First player to buy it, doesn't matter what card it is and where it falls, but the first player to buy that card pays 1 pearl to you. The second player to buy a card will pay 2 pearls to you, and so on and so on. And so that is how the economy of the game kind of works. The players are paying each other. And speaking of pearls, the game has pearls! Oh, yay! Pearls! I don't know any other game that has pearls. There's little crystals, rubies, whatever you want to call them. They're red in some games, white in others. Some games they're diamonds, some of them they're crystals, some of them they're rubies. It doesn't matter. But those little plastic crystal things, those have become very popular in a lot of games. But this one has pearls. And so I haven't seen that before, but it fits supremely well with the whole underwater theme of we're in this underwater abyss. You know, it's that, like, of course, pearls. That just makes sense. So super glad that they chose that. They were, as long as they were thinking like, should we trade money? Should we trade these crystal things that are popular in games right now? What should we use as our currency? Pearls. Pearls make it great. So every game that I've played Abyss with, I've played with new players. So there's a few things that keep coming up every time that I kind of break open the game for new people. And that is, wow, there's a lot of stuff. And it looks like there's a lot going on. And so some players are like, I don't know if I'm going to, it looks complicated. I don't know if I'm going to be able to remember everything that's going on. It only looks that way. It's actually not a very complicated game. There are only 3 things you can really do on your turn. The first thing is, as I was mentioned before, you can flip cards for other players to purchase. The second thing is the unused cards, the cards that were not picked. All of the same color go into what's called the council. There may be like 3 yellows, 2 reds, a blue, or whatever. It doesn't matter the number. But all of the same that didn't get picked, they go on a stack in the council area. And so the second action that you can take on your turn is, instead of flipping cards, you can take all of the cards from one council area. And these are usually lower valued cards, or 1s and 2s. Maybe some 3s got passed. But it's going to be a lot of low value cards. But you can grab a lot of them at one time, unless somebody else grabs them first, right? So that's another thing in Abyss, is that there's this player dynamic of, and this happens in a lot of games, but multiple players will want to do the same thing. because there's a limited number of lords to buy, which is kind of the goal of the game, is to get the most lords, because that's where most of your victory points are going to come from. The third thing that you can do on your turn is convert your ally cards, and these are the little cards that you're selling off for pearls. You can trade those in for lords. And the unique thing about this, and I really love this about the game, is that every time you kind of buy a lord, the lowest ally card that you chose to pay to gain the lord, you hang on to that. That's kind of put in your area. It's face down, it's secret, but the lowest card that you played goes in your area, and that's for in-game scoring. And I think this is a beautiful mechanic for a few reasons. The big reason why I think this is a great mechanic is that it culls the low cards from the draw deck. And often as I'm playing this game, the draw deck will deplete. It depends on how many players and how savvy they are at the game. But often the draw deck will deplete, and you'll have to reshuffle the discard pile to make a new draw deck. Well, when that happens, as the rounds go, as the turns continue, everybody's bought lords. They're putting that low card, they're hanging on to that low card, so when the reshuffling happens, those low cards aren't in there. So the next time, it's higher cards. There's a higher percentage of higher numbered cards. And that's awesome. It makes the game go faster because that's what you want, are those high cards. The other thing is you're holding on to these cards, and there's a little bit of strategy involved in how you pay for things. So in the 6 red example, you could pay 2 3s, a 3 red and a 3 red, right? And so the lowest card then is obviously a 3. But let's say you have a 4 and a 2. Well, now your lowest card is going to be a 2. And so these cards are kept for in-game scoring. And so the highest of any one color ally counts for you for in-game scoring. Paying 2 3s, that gives me a greater chance to have that 3 count toward 3 points for me. Another example is, let's say the card costs 10. If you have 2 5s, you're getting 5 points at the end because there's no card greater than 5. Quickly recap, there's really only 3 actions. You will flip ally cards for other players to purchase. If you don't want to do that, and there is a stack of council cards that you want, you can just grab that. It's free. You don't pay any money for that. You just grab it. That's your turn. That's all it is on your turn. The third thing you can do on your turn is take your ally cards that you have and exchange them for a lord. So that's really it. So it's not too complex. Really only 3 actions. It's both good and bad. The good thing is players can pick it up and start playing. There's not all these crazy convoluted rules that you have to learn. There's not a lot to understand. If somebody in the group has played the game before, it will run pretty smooth. There's not going to be a lot of hiccups and people asking rules questions and things of that nature. It's very straightforward. But because of that, I guess, straightforward, kind of easy nature of the game, I can see it losing its appeal in the long term. I see this game being kind of like Splendor. Some people love Splendor still, but many people that I know, myself included, jumped on the Splendor bandwagon really early on and played that game to death, and that's pretty much it. Now I'm sick of that game. I can see that happening to Abyss. Maybe not to the degree of Splendor, because Splendor is just, it's so simple, and there's 0 player interaction, which is kind of a big deal for me, that you can play that game in silence. This isn't a review for Splinter, so I'll stop there. But Abyss does have player interaction. You're swapping pearls and things of that nature. So there is a little bit more engagement, but the simplicity of it, maybe long term it's gonna wear thin. Right now it is fun, but I can see how it's got some similarities to some other games that I've kind of don't play very much anymore. But let's get back to the good stuff, because it is a good game. At least for me right now, it is, and the people who played it with have all said they enjoyed it. I talked to one couple on this past Sunday. They said it's their favorite game right now. I mean, of course, some people said Splinter's their favorite game too. Whatever. Some more unique things about Abyss is that as you're progressing through the game and you're buying these different lords, some of them have keys on them. And once you get 3 keys, you unlock this gate. It's a location. And the gate covers up those lords' powers. And so that's a very unique thing, that you're gaining more victory points for yourself, more power of this council that's, you know, this Abyss world, by winning lords over to your side. But their powers are getting shut down, their special abilities. Each lord has a special ability. Some of them are one-shots, they happen, and they're over with. But the ones that have these constant effects that are always in play, those cards will have their powers covered up by a key should you acquire 3 keys. And so that's a unique mechanic, because as it happens, sometimes you may get a lord that has an awesome power, but it's your 3rd lord with a key, and you won't get to use that power at all. Just 0. You will not be able to use that power because it's immediately covered up by the gate. Well, that sucks for you, right? So there's strategy involved in when you buy lords, right? In which lords you buy, in what order. But the gates, while they cover up the lord's individual powers, the gate itself has a power, and it's not a power that affects the game, but it's an in-the-game power. It may say something like, gain 3 points for each of your lords with a key icon. Some of the gates may say for every, red ally, the crab ally, whatever they're called, I guess they're just crabs. For every crab ally at the end of the game that you have, and these are the cards that you bought lords with, the lowest ones that you put kind of aside for yourself. For every one of those, gain a certain amount of points. So the gates themselves could dictate kind of how you start playing the game. But I really like that mechanic of it covers up powers, because what that does is it kind of self-regulates the game, so one player can't just get all these crazy awesome powers and there's no way to stop them. Because if they keep getting those crazy awesome powers from Lord cards, they're just going to be squashed, right? So I think that's pretty cool that these, what would be a constant, always present power in another game, in this game has an on and an off. It's immediately turned off once you get 3 keys. So, very unique there. Another thing that's just, I want to say seemingly random, but you're in an underwater world, so I guess it makes perfect sense. There's a monster tracker. So, as you're flipping ally cards to sell to your opponents, you can flip a monster card. And there's this little tracker, has a little monster token on it. Every time you flip that card, you can choose to either fight the monster, which you automatically win. You just fight it and win. And then you gain some kind of item for doing that, for winning. You get the spoils of victory. And it starts out very low-key, humdrum. You gain a pearl. Good, great. Or you gain like these special hidden information monster tokens, which they're face down. You just draw one at random, and it can have like 1 to 3 victory points on it for in-game scoring. That's if you fight it. You just get whatever rank that it's on. If it says it's rank 1, it's these low. Get a pearl or get a monster token. But the higher it goes, you can get keys. You can get multiple pearls. You can get all kinds of stuff with this monster tracker. So you either fight it and get it, or you choose to pass. You can just say, I'm not fighting that monster. If you choose to pass, the monster token advances by 1. They got stronger, or there's more of them, or whatever. I don't know the backstory, but he's angry now. He's moving up the threat track, or whatever you want to call it. And so what that does is, again, it's a gamble. There's a lot of, I don't want to say gambling things in this game, but this is definitely a gamble part, because you're passing in hopes that it will get around to you again, and you will draw another monster card, and thus gain, have the opportunity to gain something even better. Right? So you pass, the monster threat goes up, comes back around to you, draw another monster, then you get better stuff. Or you can pass again. So you keep passing to keep increasing that monster threat to get better and better loot from defeating the monster. So there's just a few cool things like that are going on. The storage is A+. It's an excellent storage solution. There's a slot for all the gates, a slot for the monster tokens. The pearls and the little containers that the pearls go in fit excellently. The decks of cards for the lords, which are full-size playing cards, and the ally cards, which are little teeny micro cards that more and more games are having now. They just fit perfectly in the box. Molded plastic, excellent storage solution. Never had a problem with it. I've transported it to game night multiple times. It's in the back. It's getting jostled around. Never opened it up and been like, oh, all my content's all over the place now. Nope, storage is great. A few things about the game, just kind of as a side, it's not the game itself. The game comes with 4 variant covers. That's right, variant box cover art. There's a lot of discussion online, or there was, I don't know how many people are discussing it now, but it has been discussed. Well, is that kind of detrimental to the gaming industry as a whole? There are some people who say the gaming industry right now we're on the bubble. We're on the crux of the bubble, and hopefully we do not experience a bust like the comic book industry of the 90s. Super high, putting out lots of new titles and variant covers and foils and holograms and all kind of craziness. And it killed the comic book industry for a very long time. It just tanked. The price for comic books, for older comic books that people were hanging on to, collector's items stuff, everything dropped. And so like comics from the 90s and early 2000s, they're not worth very much at all. The game contents are the exact same for each of the different box covers. The questions that are brought up about the game, about the desire to have 4 covers, well, one, it kind of makes it unique, right? What game has 4 covers? Not a lot. But people say it's bad for a number of reasons. One is if you buy from an online retailer, whether it's Amazon or Miniature Market or Noble Knight Games or any of the others, by and large, you're not going to have a selection. You're not going to be able to pick which box cover art you're receiving. So at the very minimum, you just have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with a random box cover. Some people aren't okay with that. I was fortunate enough to be able to pick mine, so I got the one I wanted, yay. But another thing that does, or has the potential to do, is if you are a retailer, local from the game store, you don't know which cover to buy, which is going to be popular. So you may buy, like, let's say 4 of each. Well, there is going to be one that is popular. And it's going to sell out, and your other copies might not. So it creates this kind of artificial, like, scarcity. The game's not scarce, but the cover might be scarce. And so it just, I don't know, there's just a lot going on there. But I did want to mention that and bring that up, that it does have 4 variant covers. So my only hesitation of giving this just a full, glowing review, I want to give it a good review, but not top marks. It gets a slightly not tops. Let's give it 2 floating hamburgers. We're going to give it 2 floating hamburgers. Let's say 2 out of 3. Okay, 3 is going to be the max hamburgers that a game can get. This game gets 2 floating hamburgers. And the only reason that I'm taking off points is because I really question the long-term replayability of this game. It's getting to that time, now that I've played it 5 or 6 times, that I'm starting to see where this game may be wearing thin. I may not like this game as much as I initially thought I did. You know, my initial playthrough, and the second time I played it, and maybe even the third, but the first 2 times for sure. The first time was like, oh wow, this game's awesome. The second time was like, hey guys, you gotta see this game, it's freaking awesome. The third time it wore off a little bit. The fourth time it definitely wore off to where I was like, it's got pearls. You know, so that's my only hesitation where I take off some points. And so that is the Board Game Authority review of Abyss. For more reviews, Kickstarter previews, interviews with designers, go over to the website. That's www.boardgameauthority.com. You can also follow us on Twitter. That's @BoardGameAuth, AUTH on Twitter. We have a Facebook page, Facebook/BoardGameAuthority. We'd love to connect with you. Thanks for watching, and until next time, game on.